Hi, I'm Michaela and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all of my favorite plant supplies that I could not live without. I probably could, but I would prefer not to. Okay, and this is in no particular order, and this is probably geared a little more toward my viewers who are more beginners than the ones who live and breathe plants, you know what I mean? So yeah, if some of this stuff seems obvious and you already know it, that's fine. This is just kind of an answer to a lot of questions that I get on like Instagram and Etsy and in my day-to-day life about keeping a lot of plants. So I'll just show you all the stuff that I find to be very handy in keeping a lot of plants. Okay, so the first one is not something that I even really use anymore, but it is a moisture meter. And this was so helpful when I was learning how to be able to tell when a plant needed water or not. And also just like trying to remember when I had watered something last. If I couldn't tell, this helped me a lot. And I don't use them anymore hardly, and I'm probably gonna give them away because I have several. But when you're still learning about your plants and learning when to water them, when they need water, this is a really helpful tool. But yeah, probably more for a beginner type of plant person, or even if you're just overwhelmed and cannot remember for the life in you when you watered a plant last, this is going to be really handy. And I'm going to have all this stuff linked in the description so you can find some of this stuff if you want to purchase. Okay, so the next thing is also one of the ones that's probably more obvious, but that is nursery pots. And I get mine since I do have a shop, I get them in bulk from a place called Greenhouse Megastore, but on the off chance that you don't want thousands of them, you can get them at a lot of garden centers or like these little ones I got on Amazon. And also you can, if you go to a garden center and you see that they're getting ready to throw a bunch out, ask them if you can have them. I've done that at Lowe's. Actually, I have my husband ask at Lowe's, and they gave me a ton of nursery pots and trays just for free. I don't know if they're supposed to do that or not, but I mean, it's definitely worth asking. I would not go digging around in trash cans or anything for them. You're not supposed to do that at those big box stores. You can get in a lot of trouble. I'm not telling you to do that. But just ask if you can have them. You never know. It never hurts to ask. And it's a lot easier to pot something in a nursery pot and just stick it in your cute pot like this. And most pots are standard sizes, so a lot of the time you'll be able to find something that fits pretty close. Like this isn't exact, but it's pretty close, and if you have a plant over it, you're never probably gonna notice. But it helps with watering. You can, if you water too much, you can just dump it out of here. And I like to get the pots that don't have drainage holes, and then these serve as the drainage holes. And yeah, the pots don't get as gross. The plant seems to like it better. It's easier to up pot it. It's just so much easier. I used to pot directly in the ceramic pots or drill holes in them, and the plant doesn't really do as well, I don't think. That could be just because I was more of a beginner at the time that I was planting like that, but this is so much easier. Okay, so next, as far as vessels go, I get this question a lot, and that's these little propagation cups. These are the 3 sizes that I use a lot. These two I just got in bulk at Sam's Club, and they fit down in my little dividers for my greenhouse. But I like doing my propagations in these because you can see the roots and they all look uniform, which I like to have out in the greenhouse, and they're not expensive. Let's see, I'm gonna see what sizes these are. So this one's a 5.5 ounce. This is a 9 ounce, and then this one's not labeled, so I have no idea. I would guess like 16 or 18, but yeah, these are really handy, and I don't drill holes in the bottom of them. I find that the roots develop a lot better when I don't. So, and another thing you can do is just reuse cups from like Starbucks or I don't know, wherever you're getting beverages in plastic cups from. So it's less wasteful and good excuse to go get some Starbucks too. Also, I feel like my voice sounds really nasally today. It just rained a whole lot and it's springtime and the pollen is upon us. So yeah, it's really something else. Okay, so the next thing, this is probably one of the handiest things that I have for my plants, and it's just like a plastic paper tray, and there are all kinds of things that I use this for. This one is just from the Target dollar aisle last summer, and these are definitely my favorite, and I hope they have them again this year because they're like a nice thick plastic, so it's not as flimsy as some of the other ones I've gotten, but this just makes it easier to carry plants around. If you're like watering, you can use this. I always put my cuttings in them to callus. Yeah, you would be amazed at how handy these things are. So yeah, if you have a chance to pick up some paper trays, I would definitely do it. They are so handy for plants. Even if you're setting things on a shelf that you don't want to get water damage or get dirt everywhere, these are really handy. Yeah, and they're pretty easy to find too. This specific one is definitely my favorite, but they don't have it anymore, so I am definitely going to be on the hunt for this. Okay, the next thing is probably pretty obvious too, and this one's dirty because it's been outside, but just like mixing bowls that you don't use for food in your kitchen. I mean, of course you can wash them and reuse them, but having a designated set of mixing bowls for like wetting sphagnum moss or perlite or rinsing something or even just repotting has been so handy, and I don't have to worry about what kind of fertilizer and pesticides have been in it. Like, I probably get it clean enough when I wash it, but just having a designated set of bowls for your plant chores that you're not gonna have to eat off of is a good idea, I think. Okay, so the next thing is just like these spray bottles. I feel like I am always misting something with just plain water or mixing up some kind of spray, whether it's like some kind of fertilizer spray or pesticide. These things are really handy to have, so if you find them on sale or something somewhere, I would just snag a handful because they are so handy to have if you want to mix up a few different things. Yeah, and also like the pump sprayers, and I have a big like a lawn sprayer out in the greenhouse, and that thing is really handy. But these are nice if you're like treating a bunch of things for pests. You can just like pressurize it and hold it down so you don't have to keep spraying, and it keeps your hand from getting as tired. So yeah, these are really handy too. Okay, so this is just like a little squeeze bottle. I'm gonna try not to squirt water all over the place, but I'm sure I will before I even finish my sentence. These are really handy if you are, like if you have things that are kind of hard to get to with a watering can. Like in the back of my Mills bow, I always have little like little pots of stuff on my wire grid, and it's kind of hard to get a watering can back there. So this is really handy, or for watering moss poles, or if you're air layering stuff. Like a little squeeze bottle with like the curved handle is very, very handy for plants. Okay, so this is my favorite watering can. I like it because, well, first of all, it's very cute, and it also has the little markings. So if I have to mix up some fertilizer or something, it makes it a little bit easier just to know how much I'm putting in. But I said this in an earlier video about caring for a large plant collection, that having a cute watering can just sitting around as decoration is really handy and keeps me from letting plants go too long without a watering if they need it. And yeah, it looks nice. I used to keep like those big plastic jugs around, and it did not look cute, and I did not like it. So this was like maybe $10, $12. So I think it is well worth it. And like the water stream that comes out of this one is nice, if that makes sense. I don't know why I would be particular about like the water stream coming out of something, but I am. I don't want it to be too aggressive. I don't want to disrupt the soil too much, and this watering can doesn't do that. And it has a long, what is this, a spout, a handle? Something so that I can get into places that I may not be able to reach with like a milk jug or something. Okay, so the next thing I'm not gonna unfold right now, but it is a repotting tarp, and it just has like this, what is this, nylon, and then there's like a waterproof fabric on the inside, and you can like button the sides up so that it'll make like a corner so you don't get soil everywhere if you're repotting. And it is handy for more than just repotting. Like if you're going through plants, rearranging, you can just set it out on the floor and you won't get water and dirt and leaves and stuff all over the place. Like sure, you could use a towel, but this will make sure you don't get water all over your floor or even like a table. Yeah, it's just, it makes having a whole bunch of potted plants slightly less messy. And there's a lot of really cute ones too. I got this a long time ago before the cute ones were really out and about. So yeah, this is just the cheap kind, but it works just as well. And I'll have all this stuff or something similar linked. Okay, the next thing is bamboo poles. I do like moss poles, but I don't think they do what most people claim that they do. So having a plant that's like upright, a bamboo pole does pretty much the same thing as a moss pole. Like I've definitely had plants that will have their aerial roots grab onto a bamboo pole, and just keeping the plant upright is just as good as a moss pole in my opinion. So yeah, I have a ton of these. They're really handy, and if you want to, you can make moss poles out of them too if you don't end up liking these. But yeah, you can get them in a pretty big quantity too, and if you don't like the long length, you can always cut them down. So they're just a little bit more versatile. Also, plant Velcro is really handy. So yeah, and you can use twine for this too. I think that they're both really handy to have. The twine is really good if you're air layering the way that I do, which is just tying cups onto a plant. But yeah, the plant Velcro is nice because it won't damage the plant. Like the inside is more soft, so even if you do put it on there pretty tight, it's not gonna like dig into the plant stem and damage it. So that's really nice to have, but I mean, you can use twine for that also. but you definitely can damage a plant more easily with twine. I've definitely done it and will probably continue to. And this stuff lasts for a long time. I finally got to the end of mine and I had it for years. And I have hundreds of plants. So I think this was like $3 or $4 at Lowe's. So you can get like one roll and you'll be good to go for a very long time. Oh, neat. My grandma just sent me a picture of her and my grandpa from their wedding. Also, I would totally wear the whole outfit that she's wearing. Plaid skirt, white shirt, what are these called? Like horn rim glasses? Grandma's got style. And it looks like there's like a tropical print wallpaper in this picture. That is so neat. Can you see the wallpaper kind of? Yeah. Heck yeah, I'd put that in my house today. I love old pictures and like family history type of stuff. I am really distracted right now. We are talking about plant supplies, but vintage vibes for sure. Okay, so the next thing, if you're a Hoya person, this Orchid Mist is life-changing. I spray my Hoyas with this about once a week, and they have definitely grown a lot better for me since I started doing that. I feel like I notice a big difference in growth. Like if I stop doing it for a while for whatever reason, probably I just forgot. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of good growth. It's for orchids. I did recently get an orchid if you watched my plant swap video. So I can't really speak to how it works for orchids, but for Hoyas, apparently they can absorb nutrients better through a foliar spray than through like a soil drench. So yeah. And I am looking to try some other brands of this. So if you have any that you like, please send them to me. I had someone send me one recently and I have not tried it. I have it in my Amazon cart and I've never ordered it for some reason. So, but I'm thinking of doing a video before long, like testing different Hoya orchid sprays on Hoyas, just to see if there's any difference. I don't know if there would be or not. They probably have similar ingredients if I had to guess, but I think that would be an interesting experiment. And I'm planning a lot of experiment videos for this summer, so stay tuned. Okay, this isn't the most aesthetic thing in the world, but this is just a mixture of, I almost dumped it onto my carpet, but this is just a mixture of sphagnum moss and perlite, and that's what I use to propagate all of my plants in. And I have the best luck with that. I've tried just straight perlite, straight moss, and something happens when you mix the two together. Plants propagate so well in it. So those two things are really handy to have on hand if you're going to be taking cuttings of plants. Okay, another thing I like to have on hand is just curved pruning shears. I know you definitely can use scissors and that will absolutely work, but I like to make sure that I'm making like a clean cut on the plant. I feel like they do a lot better when you don't get it real tore up when you're trying to take cuttings, and these help with that, and they don't pinch the stem. I did not think that was a big deal until, so my husband has, I think, an associate's degree in something. Well, I know something, but some kind of agriculture or, oh man, Samuel, if you're watching this, I am sorry. I don't know why I can't remember what your degree is in. I'm a terrible wife. Anyway, he knows a ton about plants and he's worked at farms and stuff. So he's teaching me a lot about plants every day. So just using like curved, sharp shears on things has made a really big difference in how the parent plant bounces back and how my cuttings do. So I thought that's been really interesting. I mean, if you only have scissors, it'll work. It'll get you by. But I think for me, using something more like this is a lot better. And you know what's coming if you watch my channel. Sanitize them every single time you use them. And I definitely did learn that the hard way. And with what do I sanitize my shears? Just rubbing alcohol. You can get this. Is this focused? I can't see. There is a glare, but it's just rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. You can get this just about anywhere. Grocery store, Walmart, Walgreens, wherever. This is what I use to sanitize my shears, and I also use this for pest treatment. And I have found, I've tried a lot of different pest treatments because managing pests in a greenhouse is much more difficult than managing them inside your house. So what I use for that is alcohol, neem oil. This is the neem oil I get, it's a concentrate, and Castile soap. And you can use dish soap also. I accidentally got the dish soap with fragrance in it, so I didn't want to be putting that on my plants. And yeah, I just mix these together and it seems to do the best for any pest I've dealt with. So spider mites, mealybugs, it kind of works for thrips, but if you have thrips, you're probably just gonna have to use systemic. That's the best way that I have found. I really like using this rooting powder. I know somebody asked me what kind of Fertilome rooting powder I use. This is the one, and it's the one that's for houseplants and ornamental plants. And I have actually noticed a big improvement in the number of cuttings that make it when I use rooting powder and when I don't. So I think this is really handy, and I am going to be doing a video coming up where I test different rooting powders, and I think they're probably the same or similar. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but on a lot of plant things, whether it's fertilizer, pesticide, rooting powder, they list like one ingredient and then they say other ingredients, 99%, which is kind of scary if you think about it. So like, we don't know what's in a lot of these plant supplies, but they're probably pretty similar. Why don't they want to tell us though? You know, maybe I'm overthinking it. It just says other ingredients. Okay, now we're getting into the fertilizer. I really like using this slow release fertilizer. This is a slow release fertilizer. It's for indoor and outdoor plants. I just get this at Lowe's and I have had really good luck with it. The thing about growing in a greenhouse is things just start growing wild out there and you have to fertilize a lot more heavily than you would in the house. And I just could not keep up. So adding this in has helped a lot because I was definitely having some issues with nutrient deficiencies. I'll just say this, growing in an outdoor greenhouse has been a huge learning curve for me, and it's been so much fun, and I would not trade it for the world. But it's just been interesting to see how much differently plants behave in an environment like that. And yeah, I cannot live without this stuff out there. Okay, so continuing on with the fertilizer, this one looks gross. Yeah, this is my worm tea. I like how it's how it's in like a jug, so you might think it's tea. It's actually a milk jug, but you might actually think this is tea. You'd be wrong. It's not. Well, it is worm tea. So it's made from like worm. My mom has a worm composter, and I've talked about this a few times. I'll see if I can insert the clip where she shows her little worm composter. Yeah, this stuff helps a lot, and I use this with, I use it probably about once a week, inside and outside, and that's in addition to this. Yeah, this helps a lot. I think it's pretty rich in nitrogen. I don't know where you could buy something like this, unfortunately. I've seen things that seem to me to be similar, but this is just something that my mom makes, and I will link a worm composter. So if you wanted to make worm compost tea, yeah, that's what it is. You could definitely do that. Yeah, but unfortunately I can't figure out how I could direct you to something like this. This is my other favorite fertilizer that I use, and I use this one about once a month. And I know this seems like a lot of fertilizer, and it is, but I have never had an issue with fertilizer burn. I have definitely experienced more nutrient deficiency than like a burn using stuff like this. I think the information that we find about fertilizer burn probably has more to do with like really heavy chemical fertilizers, not like the stuff that I'm using. But yeah, that's kind of how I use that, this combination of fertilizers. And fertilizing is very important. I used to be afraid to fertilize my plants, but they definitely need it. If you're not fertilizing your plants, they probably just won't, they're definitely not going to do as well. So it is something that you should be doing for your plants long term. Okay, so we went on a little impromptu field trip, but it's a few hours later. We're back and everything's okay. So yeah, the last few things are things I have talked about in previous videos, and they're mostly things that I use to mix my soil. So the first one is Fox Farm Ocean Forest soil, and it's the one in like the aqua blue bag. I have not tried the Happy Frog, but I intend to at some point. I just haven't yet. And I know I get drawn in by the colors on the Ocean Forest, and also I love it. Why fix what isn't broken, you know? And then also cocoa chips and coarse perlite. I use all of those things for my soil mix, in addition to, well, I don't use this for my soil mix, but I use fluval stratum a lot, and I have a whole video about it if you would like to go and watch that, and I'll go ahead and link that also. Yeah, so I think that is most of, I'm sure this is gonna end up being a really long video. So those are all of the main things that I use for my plant hobby, obsession, whatever you want to call it. These are just the things that I find myself using the most often. There are, of course, other things that I use, but I could probably get by without them. So these are the essentials, and this is, I mean, I know it's a lot, but that's all of the things that I like to use. If you have things that you really like for your plants that aren't on my list, I would love to know what they are. And yeah, so just let me know in the comments what you could not live without for your plants. Okay, so that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram at Queen City Tropicals, and I will see you again soon.